Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this. My name is John Penala. I am a AP Lang student and also a junior in high school. And this is my book vlog presentation of America Betrayed, authored by Guy Louis Gabaldon, otherwise known as the Maverick Marine, or otherwise known as the Pied Piper of Saipan, or otherwise known for his achievement of capturing over 1,000 Japanese soldiers and civilians during his service in World War II in the Battle of Saipan. Now, this story is a hard told story from a battle tested man, a very, very rough man who grew up in poverty ridden streets and then eventually moved to New Mexico with his grandfather, who, by his definition, slept with a gun by his side because he never knew when someone would come and rob their house. So this man lived a very hard lifestyle. But this man, in his words, said he lived a very fortunate lifestyle because during his time in those poverty-ridden streets, he gained great popularity within the people of Los Angeles, Skid Row to be exact. Becoming famous with the police. He eventually got adopted pretty much by this family called the Nakanos and became very good friends with their son Kakuro. And he eventually become friends with these two other boys named George and Johnny. And they play a part in the stories that I'm going to tell later. Now, this is a very great book. I would recommend this book to anyone who is a fanatic for World War II or just anyone who's really wanting to read a good story. And this book is not too popular. I believe there's less than 1,000 copies on Island because this book was personally published by Guy Gabaldon about his adventures and everything and his achievements. Now, my three favorite stories from this book are one of them is a very heart-wrenching story to me, but the first one is when his three friends, George, Kakuru, and Johnny, ask Guy, can you take us to your grandfather's old town in Grants, New Mexico? Excuse me. And show us the hometown that you say he grew up in that was the quote unquote wild wild west. Like I said, his grandfather slept with a gun by his side because criminals. And guy says, okay, pack your stuff. And one fateful day they climb on a boxcar heading for Arizona when they would eventually hitchhike down to New Mexico. And he tells very scary stories about how he met this one man who just beat up on people who were quote unquote hobos for sneaking onto trains that they weren't supposed to sneak on. And they eventually never made it to New Mexico, but he says that they had a very good time in the end. Now, my second favorite moment from this book comes from his account after the events of Pearl Harbor occurred. And the amount of sheer determination and I would not say hatred, but distaste for the actions of the Imperial Japanese forces that he expresses in these passages are super, super strong. And it just shows how dedicated he was to shutting them down and bringing justice. Now, my third favorite moment from this book comes from a very heart-wrenching story. He explains that he was walking up a cliff and he knows that a Japanese couple is hiding out in a cave, and his job, because he was able to speak Japanese, was to speak Japanese to them to try and lure them out so that he could capture them. I repeat, capture, not kill. So that he can capture them and bring them down to a prisoner of war camp where they could eventually get more information and find out more things about the Japanese Imperial Army that was still present on Saipan. And he lures them out, and the husband of the couple has a grenade in his hand, and he looks at Guy. He has his thumb on the pin, and without saying a word, he pulls the pin, and he doesn't even drop the grenade, and he holds the grenade, and boom. In an instant, guy is filled with sadness, he's filled with grief. And this moment really made me feel grateful for my life in a way that I cannot understand. Because the Japanese civilians and soldiers were victims of propaganda sent out by Hirohito and the Imperial Army from Japan, saying that these American soldiers who attempt to capture you, who will attempt to capture you, are going to torture you, they will cannibalize you, and they will murder you in the worst ways possible. And that's why on Saipan, in my home island, we have landmarks such as Suicide Cliff and Bonsai Cliff, which is a landmark where thousands of Japanese soldiers, men, women, children, were victims of suicide. And they jumped off these cliffs. It's given in the name. Now, an excerpt from this book that I feel perfectly explains the main theme of the story, which is individual courage, individual determination, is this. And this was the night after Guy had captured over 800 Japanese soldiers in one night. Let me find the page. There you go. My God, it's over. I did it. It was 2200 hours, or 10 o'clock, before we had the last prisoner back to the stockade. They didn't have room for such a large number all at once. I remember them shuffling the POWs all around. I grabbed a K ration, devoured it, laid down on a blanket, and passed out. Man, did I ever sleep what was left of that night. Up and at 'em bright and early the next morning, it seemed like a dream. Did I really get all those prisoners? It appeared to be a whole division of Japs. Well, it looks like we won this battle. Now, excuse me. Out of 5, in my opinion, I would give this book a hard, solid 5 out of 5. This book has brought out emotions that I didn't know I could feel for a book, and let alone another person's life. But the amount of emotions that he pours into this book about his encounters and all of the events that he was in his service in World War II in Saipan it's awe-striking. So I would recommend this book to anyone who would want to read a book with just a great story. Or if you're a World War II fanatic like myself, which is why I picked up this book, you would love this book so much. Now, I feel I've exhausted my mind. I feel like I've said everything I've had to say. So here's a picture of Guy Gabaldon. Here's a picture of him talking to a Japanese soldier to give up information. And here is a picture of him. Here is a picture of him with a Chamorro woman, a Japanese prisoner, and 2 others. Okay, this is my book vlog. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to follow me on Instagram, boom. This is my YouTube channel that you're watching it on, obviously. I mean, come on, man. Use your inductive reasoning, you know. Shout out Mr. Lormel. Thank you. You have a good night. Have a good day. Have a good afternoon. And this is my book vlog. Thank you.